Welcome, and thank you for joining me. Right now, we're going to do a brief video on understanding the hell that's coming for us. As we can all now so clearly see, we are in the midst of a color revolution, a political upheaval, a great reset, the brink of a world war, and an incoming famine. This coming singularity of worst-case scenario events is starting to raise some eyebrows on this planet. Many who are seeing it are noticing an acceleration of these events, hastily heading to one hell of a crescendo, one nobody on this earth has seen before. A series of catastrophes that none on the earth can imagine, as it's so dystopian and with an end game whose many facets still remain unknown to the sheeple of whom it will all be foisted upon for eternity. These coming events, although seemingly new problems that are unexpectedly rearing their heads, are not some new modern day issue that's just recently popped up. These are things that, like trees, have been planted decades ago, maybe in some cases centuries ago, and are just now reaping their fruits. Let's briefly identify these coming catastrophic events. The first one is already ongoing, the war. The war, as most who pay attention understand, is being used among many reasons as an excuse for oil scarcity and thus horribly high energy costs. Cheap, affordable energy is the backbone of freedom itself. It could be argued that cheap energy powered the Industrial Revolution, of which helped to lift half of the known world out of poverty and in many cases out of tyranny. By allowing the common man and woman with the means to cheap energy, allowed him or her to forge steel, build tractors, erect huge factories, automate production, and drive cars. All of which contributing immensely to each citizen's individual freedom. Those paying attention know that it's not the war that has caused this energy crisis, although it's a small part of it. The energy scarcity crisis began on January 20th, 2021, when the U.S. began to shut down much of its own production and then moved to halt fracking as well. The green agenda was already in full force in Europe, and they had already made their moves for shutting down new production. America was the last one left to follow suit. It can't be understated the importance of cheap oil. If the price of energy goes up, the cost of making all the products that we use on a daily basis, including essential things, goes up significantly. One must factor in the electricity to run these humongous factories, many running 24/7, running hundreds, sometimes thousands of machines, pumping out products. Don't forget the lights and the heating and cooling in some of those places. From there, those goods must get to their destination, and unless I miss some sort of teleportation device being invented, then it must travel to its destination using fuel of some sort. So whether it's planes, trains, or automobiles, the cost to get that product to your local Walmart is going to go up. And I also don't want to forget that much of our food is now harvested from the fields via tractors or other large pieces of equipment, all powered probably with diesel gasoline. So the prices go up at every single turn because the cost of making it and transporting it goes up at every single turn. This leads us to the famine that will arise from this extreme uptick in energy prices as food becomes very expensive to transport, and never mind the disruptions caused by the war for two of the top 5 grain producers in the world, in Ukraine and Russia respectively. So now we can see an end game, and we can see that this slow, steady push to shut down the world's oil and gas production has been an ongoing thing really for decades when we consider the whole climate change religion being the end goal, and we understand how long ago they began to start to utilize that climate change narrative. The climate change narrative that has talked the world into committing energy suicide began in the 70s at least, a brainchild of the Rockefellers and Carnegie Institute, as spoken about probably in other videos. The immediate goal of all of this is to create a world body authority using the catastrophic climate change narrative as cover to impose draconian mandates upon the citizens of the world. The idea is that there is an existential threat to our planet. No nation is exempt. We're all in this together, and thus a consolidated central world authority is necessary to get all the nations on board for the greater good of us all. If the narrative flawlessly hits the ears of the nations, then who could argue with this? This is why we have seen a deep state run on all of the media and social media companies, getting them to censor anything that goes against the COVID or climate change narrative. It was important to maintain that narrative. There's another layer of deception involved in this. The end goal of having this centralized world authority is to depopulate. Once established, it will look benevolent at first, keeping us safe, but soon will come the forced injections and other medical procedures like forced abortions and government-sponsored suicide, even in the mentally ill. And please don't forget the gay and the trans psyop either. They've managed to make society go from about 1% of the population being gay or trans to, in California, for instance, almost 30% of the kids are now claiming to be gay or trans. It's being taught. If you're gay or trans, then you're not reproducing. And if you have the surgery, then you can never even change your mind later, and thus you'll never reproduce. It's like with anything else with these people. When given an inch, they will take a mile, and that's what will happen here. Once their foot's in the door and they have a central world authority in place, they will take until they've taken everything, including your soul. If you enjoy this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.